right, so here we are. So before we get into what we're going to talk about with the advanced lighting, I want to talk about Booleans for just a second because I realized I had not shown you guys what a Boolean is. A Boolean allows me to cut a piece out of another piece. Now, they're really handy, especially for like on the bishop when you got to cut that little divot in their head. Problem is, it doesn't care one lick about your geometry. It will mangle your geometry to make the cut. That being said, don't do it on something organic. Don't do a Boolean on somebody's hand, because as it moves, it's going to deform and the geometry is going to go do things you don't want it to do. If it is a flat object that's never going to deform, topology is a little less important, so you can have some mangled geometry. But I'm going to double my square here, so Shift D to duplicate, Z to move up on the Z axis, so we'll just move it up a little bit. I'm going to position this so that it kind of crosses over. Okay, we can see how they're crossing into one another. So now I am going to take the bottom square, bottom cube, and I'm going to cut the top cube out of it. So we start with the bottom cube. We're going to come over here. This is a modifier. So we'll go to our modifiers. Add modifier. We'll say Boolean. Now, if you programmers, you may understand a Boolean as being a true-false statement. It's kind of the same idea here. But we're simply going to Boolean. So the operand type is object. What am I doing? What am I cutting with? An object as opposed to a collection. If I get to it, I will do my best. No, different class. I'm sorry. That's particles. I'm teaching this afternoon. We haven't talked a lot about collections. Collections are like folders in your file. If I want to reference a single object, I can say reference this object. If I want to reference multiple objects, I can have them in the same collection and say reference this collection. Okay. Not really going to go into that because just knowing how to cut is what you need to know. So we're going to go ahead and set it up as object. Now we have three different operations that we can do. The first one will be intersect. That is going to basically leave the part where they're touching. Union is going to turn it into a single object. And difference is going to cut that section out. At least that's what it did last time I did these, so fingers crossed. I need to pick where my cutter is. What is my cutter? So just like anything else, I'm going to click on the eyedropper tool, and I'm going to select that cutter. Now, we may have seen not much has happened, but if we look real close, we will see that something's happened. The profile of this shape has changed, hasn't it? We can see how the profile has changed. The problem that we're not really seeing is the cutter is still visible. So over in my hierarchy, I'm going to select the cutter, and I'm going to turn it off. Now, I have two things. I can hide it in the viewport, which, look at that. I've made that beautiful cut. If I went to render this now, it would still show up in the render. So I need to turn off the camera as well. In the hierarchy over here is where we can selectively turn off and on things, whether or not we want them rendered. So that's how you do a Boolean. Now, like all other modifiers, this is temporary until I apply it. Nice thing about it being a temporary is if I decide to come in here, I can take this. Let's go ahead and select that one, and we're just going to scale it. By scaling it, I've changed the section it cut out. That could be animated. Suppose I wanted to have a cylinder that opened up like a door. Right? Again, this is not permanent. This geometry is not real. If I select this guy and I hit tab, we're going to come in here, it's going to look like that. Because it's not. It's still just a modifier. Again, this is what I want you to do when you're making an object that has 2 or 3 or 4 modifiers on it and you need multiple copies of that. When you are done, you come over here and press apply. You could also just hover over your modifier and press Control A. That's going to do the same thing. Now, if I tab into this, we'll see that that geometry is now real. It's actually completed the cut. So that's a great way. Now this is a very simple example, so it didn't really mangle my geometry too much, although we do have what are called n-gons on the end here now. It's called an n-gon because it has more than 4 sides. And they will kind of mess things up. But again, it's not as big a deal if you're not deforming the object. Once you start deforming the object, then the rules change. Okay. That's your nickel tour of the Boolean. One thing I do want to say too, from here on out, if you prefer low poly, stylized type modeling, that's what I want you to do. If you prefer sub D modeling, that's what I want you to do. If you prefer something in between, I like to keep stuff real low poly, and I slap a bevel modifier on it. Beautiful. You know why? That's the poor man's sub D right there. That's just, we'll just put a bevel modifier on it, shade it smooth. Oh, doesn't that look nice? Okay. But those are all, they're all valid ways to model. Just depends on, again, what the end result is. All right. Take a drink, jump right in. Okay. So the goal today is we are going to look at how we can, first off, improve our textures just by adding a little bump to them, adding a little bit of texture to it. This wall, you know, it looks relatively flat, but if we look up here, there's some problems. We look over here, there's some more problems, there's some damage to the wall. And just in general, the wall is not perfectly smooth. It's not mirror smooth. It has a little bit of texture to it. Everything does. Almost everything you touch in the world is going to have just a little bit of texture to it. And so, if you look at I'm going to go ahead and just render this because it looks better in the render. If you look at the teapot, you'll notice that it's not perfect. It's got some roughness to it. And so that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. It's real simple, and it's going to be something you can very quickly add to your renders that's going to make them not look quite so artificial. Okay. Same with the tablecloth here. Extra bonus thing today, I'm going to show you real quick how to make a tablecloth. Super easy. Okay. Again, that's usually not taught until part 2 when we do physics, but just as a preview. Now, the other thing we're going to do is we're going to learn, I've got a lot of lights in this scene, okay? And again, here are some collections that I created to keep things organized in my file. Very simple. The main collection simply has my camera and all of my geometry in it. Now my lights, I've got special lights doing specific things. So in the first box here, we'll go ahead and turn these 2 off. Actually, we'll turn that one. Let's do that. There we go. Okay. So, hopefully everybody has the Tri-Light add-on installed. Shift-A, add light, Tri-Light. Okay. That's what this is. That's what these 3 lights are. These are very simple, just area lights that are created when you create your 3-point lighting setup. So this is what the scene looks like with those turned on. Now, in addition to that, I have a set of point lights that are in there. And that's what the scene looks like when the point lights are on. See the difference? Okay. Then I have a third set of lights here called light and shadow linking. Light and shadow linking is probably one of the last things we're going to talk about today. But it allows me to take a light, shine it on this object, and say only the cup will receive light from that particular light. None of the table will, nothing else, just the cup. So we can isolate an object to highlight it. Now, if we look at this scene, when I go to my area lights, let's just go ahead and turn my area lights on. One of the things you might notice, it's kind of hard to see, sorry. That one's not bad, maybe that one. But if you look real close, I've got 3 shadows coming off my teapot, being caused by each of those 3 lights that I have. Is that realistic? Absolutely, it's realistic. Lights cause shadows. Does it look good artistically? Not necessarily. So we're going to learn to break some of the rules of physics and say this object doesn't cast shadows. This object only casts shadows from this light. Because if you look, it's kind of muddied up. And like I said, I know it's subtle, probably kind of hard to see sitting out there. But look what happens if I turn those lights off and I come over and I turn on the lights that I've got shadow linked. Okay? Still got a real nice prominent shadow coming off the back of my teapot, but there's no shadows in front to muddy it up. There's no shadows to dull my scene. Okay? So, again, is it realistic? No. Is it artistic? Yes. Sometimes we break the rules to make things look the way we want to. I need light to come off this table. I'm not getting quite enough bounced light off that table. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a light on that table, and I'm going to shine it up where I want it to be. Again, is it realistic? No. Does it look the way I want it to? Yes. Okay. First and foremost, most of us are artists. Right? We're trying to convey something. So, this is what we're going to do. And I know that sounds like a lot, but trust me, you'll get it. All right. I'll bring up my cheat sheet. So here's my cheat sheet. This is what I'm going to be working from. So when you get home and you're struggling, please go back and look at this. Okay. Now I have some demo files that you can download as well, just to look at. Do not turn in my own work back into me, please. I've actually had that happen. It's disappointing when that happens. Okay. So let's go to a nice empty file. That looks empty, cool. All right, so I'm going to create a few things, and I'm just going to kind of talk through my process. And once those are created, we'll get into the actual meat and potatoes of things. So, when dealing with light, one of the things that's important is to build the correct size. So bear that in mind. Up to this point, you may not have thought about how big you were making things. Maybe go home and look at how big your chess pieces are. Some of them might be 2 meters tall. And if they are, that's okay, because everything is scaled relative to them. So it looks fine. But as we move on, we need to start paying more and more attention to, is this an accurate size? Yeah, okay. So a good measure for that, in my humble opinion, is I like to just throw down a plane that gives me 2 meters squared to work with. And now I know everything is going to be relative to 2 meters. And I know how big 2 meters is. 2 meters is like this tall. Okay. I'm about 1.8. So it's a little bit taller than me. And it's kind of hard, but go ahead and start thinking in meters now, because that's what Unity likes. That's what all the game engines like. Okay. 2 countries in the world use feet and inches. That's it. We're one of them. Okay. Let's bring in, so that's going to be my ground. Let's just go ahead and bring in another mesh. This time we'll make it a cylinder. Again, I almost never go with the 32. If I'm going to put a sub D on it, I can probably get away with like 16 or even 8. 8 would be okay as well. Going to tab inside here. We're going to scale down to 0.5. Maybe a little smaller than that. That'll work. Scale it on the Z. And then this is going to be my table. I'm going to go ahead and bring out the bottom of the table. So let's inset that. And then we'll just extrude downwards. And perfect. Okay. We're not going to see it anyway, so it doesn't matter. It's going to have a tablecloth on top of it. But if I don't build the bottom, it will mess with my shadows. Last thing I'm going to do is go ahead and bevel this. So set that to 0.05, 0.05, over 1 maybe? Try 0. That's better. That's what I wanted. Like I said, it's not going to be seen anyway, so it really doesn't matter. All right. So here's the part you want to take notes on. We'll show you how to make cloth. We are going to start with another plane. So make it easy on myself. Just Shift D, the one I already have, bring it up. I'm going to tab inside of it so I can rescale it. Make it just a little bit smaller. Now, cloth. What does cloth do? Cloth is very bendy, is it not? Very, very bendy. We need lots of geometry for bendy. So we're just going to go ahead and right-click this. I'm going to say subdivide. And your first inclination might be something crazy like 100. I wouldn't do 100. Let's start with 20. See what that looks like. That looks pretty good. I'm going to turbo smooth, or subdivision this anyway. So same thing. Alrighty. You all ready for the hard part? It's so hard. Physics. Go to our physics tab. The physics tab looks like a little planet with another planet or moon going around the outside of it. We have all kinds of physics that we can play with. This is not a physics lesson. We're focused on just on cloth today. So I'm going to go ahead and tell that that's a piece of cloth. Now, because I'm working with a relatively known size, this thing is about this big, I don't really need to change a lot of things. The default settings will work just fine. I'm going to go ahead and hit play so we can see what happens since I put that cloth modifier on there. There are a bunch of settings. We're not going to worry about changing any of them right now. The defaults will work just fine. And I'm going to hit play, and oh my God, it falls right through. That's not what I want. Let's put it back. Needs to hit the table, right? Okay. In Blender, we call that a collision. So I'm going to select that object. I'm going to go to my physics tab again, and I'm going to say you're a collision object, and that's it. That's all I'm going to do. Now I'm going to hit play. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Isn't that nice? All right. So, yeah, it looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. We're going to go ahead and stop it. Okay. I suppose I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Yes, I do. Why not? Okay. You may notice, you may not. It's pressing through just a little tiny bit. Nobody's going to notice that except for you and me, but we're going to fix it anyway. So all I'm going to do is reset my simulation. Now, we haven't done anything with simulations. One of the things that's important with simulations is when you make changes, you go back to frame number 1. Because if you're sitting at frame 120, Blender has tried to simulate a bunch of stuff, and it's going to get really mad at you for moving things. So make sure you're at frame number 1. I'm simply going to come in, grab my base here, and I'm going to make it a collision object as well. So now when I resimulate this by hitting play, we'll see that it acts appropriately and does not pass through the plane, right? Like I said, nobody's going to notice except for you, and if it bothers you, fix it. So that's why I fixed it. Now, this does not look great yet, does it? It kind of looks like, like one of those space blankets or something that you'd camp with. Let's fix that. 2 things we can do, make it super easy. Go to our modifier. We're going to add a sub D. Order of operation matters. Okay? So we're just going to go, we do our simulation first, we do the cloth, and then we do the sub D. Okay? And I did that wrong. I had the wrong thing selected. That's what I get for talking. All right, so let's simulate this one more time. We're just going to go ahead and stop it there. Make sure you have the right object selected. Now we're going to add our sub D. Okay, still doesn't look fantastic, but if I right-click, say Shade Smooth, that looks a lot better. And since I've already simulated it, now I can up my levels of sub D. I'm not going to go above 2. 2 is going to look just fine. 2 for the render is fine. If you want to go 3, you can, but you might want to hit Ryder up and see if he'll let you use his computer to render it. I guess it may not render for you. But 2 is generally good. Okay, looks real nice. Now, if I was going to animate it coming in, at this point I would bake my simulation. When we talk about baking a simulation, we are talking about, I'm going to go to my physics tab. We're talking about coming to something that says cache. In Australia they say cache, but here in the United States we say cache. This allows me to take the simulation and make it real, make it keyframed, basically. Now that would be if I wanted to animate it. I don't want to animate it. I want to start with it where it is. So all I have to do, super simple, go to my modifier panel, apply my cloth modifier, and it is done. Now this is no longer cloth. This is geometry that looks like cloth. Does that make sense? This no longer has any cloth properties. But it sure looks like a tablecloth now, doesn't it? It's got the folds in it and everything. Now, this is a beautiful way to do lots of things. Let's say you make a cheeseburger and you want to melt that cheese perfectly on that bun or on that piece of meat. Make it into a piece of cloth. Drop it on top of the piece of meat. Since I've removed the modifier for the cloth, for the material, I can go to this and I can also just get rid of, I just want to get rid of it. Here we go. I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong place. Too many places. I'm just going to come here and I'm going to get rid of the collision because it is no longer needed. Does that make sense? So because I'm not using it, I want to get rid of it because it's going to still be like, oh, I'm a collision object. And Blender's going to be like, I better figure this into my calculations. Well, we don't want to do that. Okay. All right, the last thing we're going to do is I'm going to bring in a teapot. The teapot has special significance in 3D modeling. And I have to Google it so I make sure I say it right. I'm sure glad Google knows how to spell. It's called the Utah teapot. And it was one of the very first 3D models created using 3D modeling. Now, when they made the teapot, they didn't have a tool that said teapot. They put a vertex in, and then they put another vertex, and they connected those two vertexes, and then they put two more vertexes in, and they connected all four of those, and they made a face. And then they made another face, and then they made another face, and then they made another face. And they went all the way around the teapot. The teapot was a great example for this, though, because it has nice organic curves to it. So you can think of the teapot as 3D modeling's hello world, right? As a programmer, that's one of the very first things you learn how to do is make your computer say hello world. Same thing here. So we have a teapot, though. We don't have to build one, thankfully. Under our Shift A, helps you in the right window, Shift A, we're going to come all the way down here to Mesh, and for whatever dumb reason, I don't have extra objects installed. So learning time here, let's go to our add-ons. Let's just type in extra, maybe not there, and extensions. Hang on, what the hell? There it is, extra mesh objects. If you don't have extra mesh objects, I suggest you go ahead and install it. It's free. We're going to get that one, and we'll also get the extra curve objects as well. Those are just going to give you different types of splines that you wouldn't normally have. Okay, perfect. Just that easy. And there's thousands of those things, guys. Go to the Blender Exchange and just spend an hour looking and see what you can find. You'd be surprised. All kinds of really great tools to make things better. You see that origin point? It's not hurting anything where it is, but it's kind of bugging me. So let's make sure we always go set origin, and we're going to say origin to geometry. That way, if I rotated that for whatever reason, it would rotate properly. All right, Shift A. Let's go to our mesh. There we go. Let's go to extras, and then Teapot Plus. Oh my gosh, it's huge. We're going to scale that down. Bring it up. Okay. Being all pixelated like that, that's not the way we want it to look necessarily. So again, we're just going to put our subdivision on there. Let's go ahead and say shade smooth and bring it up to 2 so it's nice and shiny. Okay. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I am going to create some materials. I think it's important to add your materials. Yes?
Don't forget to scale it.
Oh, apply my scale. Correct. So Shift A. Very good. Control A, not Shift. Apply my scale. Always. Always. It sounds silly, but you go on the subreddit sometimes, and that's the first thing people suggest. You apply your scale? Oh, man, I didn't. 9 times out of 10, they'll fix whatever problem you are having. I don't know why, but it works. Okay, so materials. Now, we've looked at PBR materials. We've looked at going and getting really fancy materials off of like Polygon and bringing them in. And they're easy to do, especially with Node Wrangler. Control-Shift-T, right? Bring in your textured set, super easy. Sometimes you just need like a gold texture or something along those lines. Maybe something simple. You don't want to go get an actual thing. So you build a procedural material. Now, I am not a procedural material kind of guy most of the time. What I use is the PBRs. But occasionally it is something that I need to use. And I know you guys have used Substance Designer, or at least some of you have. Okay. Substance Designer is the way to do this. This is the industry standard and all of that. Unfortunately, I don't know Substance Designer. What I'm going to show you is just some really basic things inside Blender that we can do. So let's jump over to our shading tab real quick. Let's go ahead and go here. And since I deleted everything, I'm going to need to make sure I switch this over from scene lights and world lights to the default lights. Yeah, there it goes. I will light the scene after I get my textures in. Lighting and textures are two sides of the same coin. So it doesn't really matter to me if you do one first and then the other, but you should do them not simultaneously, but within each other, if that makes sense. Because your lighting is going to affect how your textures look, and your textures are going to affect how your lighting looks. I could light this scene and make it look great with this texture. I put my own in there, it might break. So, okay. We're going to start by making the teapot texture. So I'm just going to go plus, and we're going to make it gold and shiny right there. And now I have a shiny gold teapot. Right? Yeah, not really. Okay. And of course, I'm going to be working in cycles. Sorry, that's just my preferred engine. Again, we're just going to come over in GPU. In the viewport, I go 32 samples. In my render, I do 120. Okay. If you can handle doing more, then do more. But 120 tends to look pretty good for me. Plus, I'm impatient. You know, I'm really impatient. Okay, now, we've kind of talked about these different nodes before, but let's just kind of run through them again real quick. Let's say I want it to be metallic. So now it's got a nice metallic look to it, okay? In the real world, things are either metal or they aren't. In our world, we make them any degree of metal or not that we want it to be. Artistic license. The roughness, again, roughness is no roughness. It's a mirrored finish. Shh. And you can do that with any material. There's your mirror. Make sure you have something to reflect in your mirror. Because otherwise, it'll just look black. If your world is black, it'll just reflect the blackness of your world. So make sure you have something in the scene. Again, most things are not 100% smooth or 100% rough. They're varying degrees of both. So one of the things that we could do here on the roughness would be to add a noise map. A noise map is going to just be, when you hear the word noise, think static. And I'm going to take a noise map and I'm going to plug it into my roughness map. Where the parts are white, God, please say this right, I think it's right. If I'm wrong, if somebody knows better, correct me. The black parts will be shiny. The white parts will be dull. Or vice versa. I don't remember. I always get it wrong. Is it the other way?
I think you're right.
Okay, I'll tinker with it and we'll find out. Okay. But this is what I'm going to do. So Shift A, and then I'm just going to type in noise, N-O-I-S, and I can grab a noise texture. There are lots of different types of procedural textures we can use. Noise is just one of them. Very quickly, I'm going to take the factor and I'm going to plug it into the roughness. Now, as I scale this, we'll see how it's got some dings and some stuff on it now, and it's not quite as perfect as it was, is it? Still not quite what I want, but it's getting better. So now parts of my objects are shiny, parts of my object are smooth. Real objects wear that way, right? The edges of your object are going to get a lot more wear than the middle of your object. Now the only problem with this is I don't really have a lot of control over the noise. So I'm going to bring in what is called a color ramp. Now the color ramp I've seen used for all manner of things when it comes to making textures. So we're going to say Shift A, and I'm just going to type in color, and I'll go down here to color ramp. Now if I want to install this node, I'm simply going to drop it on that line. Okay? So just so I make sure everybody's on the right page and make sure everybody understands what's happening, is I'm creating this noise texture here. This color ramp is going to allow me to clamp how strong or how weak that noise map is going to be. That is going to be fed to the roughness of my material, which then is fed to the material output, which makes parts of it rough, parts of it smooth. So notice how, as I drag these sliders around, now we've got less smooth. So black is shiny, white is dull. If I bring it back this way, we're going to get more dull. If I crank this one over, now the whole thing is very smooth. Or, I'm sorry, not smooth, but very, very dull, very matte. We're going to pick somewhere kind of right in the middle. Okay. Now, to make this look exactly the way I want, I could sit here for the next 30 minutes moving these dots. I'm not going to. Just know this is the intro to it. This is how you do it. The actual process is you sitting here moving those just the tiniest little bit so you get it to look exactly the way you want it to look. Because that does not look exactly the way I want it to look. But I'm not going to waste your time sitting here tweaking these numbers in. All right. Okay. Now I'm going to cheat and jump over to my other file, just so that I can look at my material I made yesterday. Okay, cool. Okay, we're getting there. Perfect. Okay. Now, one of the problems that I see with this material right now is we do have some roughness on it, which is nice, but the base color is one solid color. So what if I were to make a copy of this color ramp, or I could bring in a new one, just easier to make a copy. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to plug it into the base color. Oops, plug it into the base color, not the metallic. Okay, it's no longer yellow, but that's because the two colors I'm feeding it are black and white. What if I were to change this to somewhere around right here, and then I was to change this one to somewhere about right there? Not sure if I like that first color. Again, I would probably tweak and play with this until it looked exactly the way I want. But now, in addition to roughness variation, now I have some color variation on my object. Again, maybe the object gets touched a whole lot on the handle. Right? So there's going to be more wear on the handle. Now the cool thing about this too is if you UV map this, you can get very specific about where you're putting this stuff. So this is a really simple little setup as a way for you to add some variation to your materials. Okay. Now these can get stupidly complex, and I'm not even going to try. Okay, I watch people do them on YouTube all the time, and I'm like, I can't even follow what you're saying. Okay, looks like a bunch of spaghetti, but it works. It works for them. But this is something that you can start adding to your pieces. Maybe you don't want all the extra download size of all those 4K textures. I could probably go find a 4K texture that looks an awful lot like this one. But the nice thing about this is procedural. So I could put this on one object, have it look one way. I could put it on another object, duplicate the material and then make minor changes to add variation. So instead of a single teapot with the same material sitting on the thing, I've got 10 teapots, all with slightly different materials sitting on it, even though they're all based on the same material. Okay, so that is one introduction to very simple, very basic procedural material. For the next one, I'm going to create kind of a tablecloth material. I'm going to try to make it look a little like velour. Okay, is that real velour? That's right. Velveteen. Anyway, let's start again with just a basic material. I'm going to go ahead and set the base color to kind of a black. Now with this one, there's a couple things I'm going to do. First thing, I'm going to modify the sheen property. Now when we hear the word sheen, what do you picture in your mind? Just kind of like a sheen, think of like dew on your grass, right? So you can see the grass, but the green is underneath a different color, and there you can see parts of the other color. Okay, I don't know if that makes sense or not, but when I think of a sheen, that's what I think of. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tint my sheen a nice pretty purple, because I just really love purple. And then I'm going to start playing with these two. Now, I'm going to drag the weight up. Oh my goodness, look at that. See, now we're starting to get that purple color kind of underneath or just on top of the black. If I change the roughness, it's going to modify it as well. So this is just another way to give it a little more depth. It's got a little more, it's not just black. It's got some underlying colors. You ever see those colors that change, those cars that change colors as they go past you? I love those, right? So that's a very simple. The sheen is one of my favorite things to modify because it's simple and you can make things look really cool with it. Now, in addition, what happens if we take the roughness of this and we drag it all the way down? Now we've got leather, right? Because that's not real leather. Real leather don't look like that. But we've got a very shiny material, very slick material, don't we? Okay. Whereas if we bring it all the way up, now we've got a nice soft material. You can almost feel how soft that is when you reach out to it, couldn't you? So playing with these little options are a really great way to start to really begin to make your textures look the way you want. Very last thing I want to talk about with this one is, again, the problem with my tablecloth is it's perfectly smooth at this point. It has no variation. Again, in this case, we're going to use a bump map for this. Okay? So unlike this one where we played with the roughness, I'm going to plug my noise into the bump. Now the bump creates fake geometry for you. It gives the impression that it goes like this. Does that make sense? It's still perfectly smooth, but it gives the impression that it has texture to it. Again, if you touch this wall, you can feel what I'm talking about. If you touch any of these walls, you can feel the bump that I'm talking about. So we're just going to go and do that real quick. So again, we're going to say, now this one, it requires a little extra step, so we say Shift A. We'll bring in our noise first. And then we're going to say Shift A. And we're going to bring in a normal map. Now, these can be very confusing, but luckily they're starting to color code things. So purple goes to purple. Yellow goes to yellow generally, and so on. We're going to go ahead and plug this into the normal. And then we're going to plug the factor into the strength. No, wrong map. Sorry. Need a bump map. Normal maps and bump maps do the same thing, they just do them differently. A bump map is generally black and white, has less value. A normal map is one of those ones that's pink and blue and purple and green and all those colors, and it has much more information to it. So sorry about that. Shift A, bump. If you wrote that down in your notes, mark it out. There we go. Normal to normal. And then we're going to go factor to height. Now, as I increase the strength of this, we'll see less or more coming up. And I need to change my scale for one thing. The lower the number, the larger the noise. The higher the number, the smaller the noise. Okay, the more densely packed it is. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to something like 50. And then we'll play with the distance a bit. And of course you don't want to work, so guess what? We're going to go over here. Same thing, different file. All right. Apparently I didn't do that on this one. Oh, that's because I was working on this one. Never mind, my bad. I apologize. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at the cloth itself, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so you see that? That's my bump map. That kind of ripple to it. Okay, it's very subtle, but if I get rid of it, you will see the difference. See how smooth that is? See how that's got a little bit of texture to it? Those are the things that are going to make or break what you build. Okay? There'll be some kid on Reddit who talks about that. You don't have enough bump map on there. Okay. Now, again, I have the files that you can download. You are welcome to look at those materials. You're welcome to copy those materials. Does that make sense? Because I know me showing it to you this one time, you're going to go home and go, I have no fucking idea what he did. It sure made sense when he said it. That's just the way it is. That's why I'm giving you those files. Okay. Now, that's it for the material sections of things. Now it shows up. Again, not what I wanted it to look like. Let's go ahead and take that distance down to about 8. Maybe less even. There we go. And sometimes those numbers, you may think you put in a high enough number, bump of 50 or something. If it doesn't seem to affect anything, go crazy. Build it up by power of 10. Put 5,000 in. Holy shit. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Start backing it up after that, right? But you won't know. I mean, you're trying to nickel and dime it 10 units a time. You're going to be there forever. Okay. All right. So those are a couple of simple ways that you can add some more texture to your textures. Now we're going to jump back over, and I'm going to talk about what is called, we're going to do light groups first. Light groups are going to allow me to put in multiple sets of groups, or multiple sets of lights, so I can have a daytime light and a nighttime light. I have the same scene. I have it lit for daytime. I also have it lit for nighttime. Okay? And it will allow me to selectively turn on or off certain sets of lights. Super easy. To make this as simple as possible, I'm going to keep this demonstration just straightforward, and we're going to use like 2 lights. Normally I would have multiple lights in a set. For this particular thing, I think it'd just be simpler if I just do 2. So again, Shift A, mesh, no, Shift A light. And we'll go with point lights. Why not? They're easy, they're fun to work with. G and Z. Bring it over that way. I'm going to press Shift D to copy it. Bring it over here. Now to separate these lights, one of them is going to be red, the other one is going to be blue. Make it super easy for me to tell which one is which. So we'll say red. I'm going to come over here to the data, and I'm going to make it a red light. Let's go ahead and switch over to the viewport rendering. Perfect. And scene lighting. Okay, perfect. That's what I wanted. And so now the other light, we're going to go ahead and call it blue. Come down to my light settings again, and we're going to make it blue. So it's pretty simple. It's pretty easy to see which light is where and where it's going. Okay. Now, I am going to grab this light. I am going to go to my, where are you at? Gimme. This one, I'm sorry. I'm going to go to Object Properties. It's the one that looks like a square surrounded by the little other square. Under Object Properties, I'm going to come down to Shading. Under Shading, I'm going to select Light Group. Now currently no light groups exist in my scene. So I'm simply going to click here and I'm going to type the name of the light group that I want to create. RED GROUP, red group. Hit enter, and then here's the key. Got to hit the little plus sign. Little plus sign is actually going to create the group and add the red light to the red group. Now we're going to select the other one. We're going to do the same thing. Now, because I've created a red group, when I click on the name, red group is going to show up. If I want to add this light to red group, I simply go red group. Now it's part of that red group. Okay. I don't want it to be part of red group. I want it to be blue group. Again, here's the key. Make sure you press that little plus sign. Now, the red group is in a group called red group, or the red light is in a group called red group. The blue light is in a group called blue group. I'm going to render my scene. Actually, I lied. I'm going to add a camera, and then I'm going to render my scene. And we'll just do a very simple render. So we'll line up our viewport there. Press Control-Shift-0. Control-Alt-0. Sorry, Control-Alt-0. That's what happens. What that did is it took my camera and moved it. So now I'm viewing the world from the viewport. Let's go ahead and hit F12 to render. Super duper render. Now, here's the magic. In the compositing window, the compositing window is going to allow me to turn off or on the lights, the light groups. If I wanted to, it would also allow me to composite my 3D render on other footage. So if I had like real footage and I made a robot that I wanted to walk across it, this is how I could bring this two together. First thing though, we're going to come up here and we're going to click New. Now, what this is saying to me is this is the rendered layers. We have the image. The image goes to the group output. That is what we see. That is the collective of everything in the scene. This viewer node is just simply going to change what I see here. All right? So, the alpha, which is the opposite of transparency, but that's what it's referring to. If I had an alpha layer in this scene, it would show up. I would see my character, and then the rest of it would be blank because I would render it out as a PNG or something. Now, under noisy image, this is what the image looks like before the noise reduction algorithm has run. If you're not sure what that means, right here, you're setting it to denoise when you render. Well, that's a new button. Use GPU for noise reduction. That's new. I haven't seen that before. Kind of cool. Might look for that when you get home. But what that's going to do is it's going to kind of quiet down the noise in your scene a little bit. Okay. Now, you'll notice I've got one here that says combined red group. If I make that go to the output, I'm only going to get the red light. Nighttime scene. Daytime scene. Actually, I guess that's more nighttime. Do you see what's happening? So I only rendered it once, but I'm able, in the compositing window, to come through and selectively say, oh, well, I only want the red light. Or, I only want the blue light, or I want both lights in the scene. But the only reason I'm able to do this is because over here in layout, when I grabbed this light, I added it to that light group. That's what created the light group for me. Okay? That's a pretty cool thing right there. Because now you can, again, like I said, you can do daytime, nighttime scenes. You can have variations of your scene. I like this lighting. Maybe you're not sure about the lighting. Maybe you want to show 4 of your friends. Which one of these looks better? Or your art director, or whoever it is. Okay? So, that's light groups. Those are handy. I like those a lot. Okay. Now, to save time and to save my voice and my sanity, I'm going to go ahead and just use these 2 lights. And we're going to do what we're going to do next is called light and shadow linking. If I link a light to an object, I can then selectively exclude that light. Or exclude that object from the light, I should say. So let me show you. I'm going to grab my red light. I'm going to come over here to light linking. And I'm going to press the plus sign. Now this is really important. At this stage, I need to grab the object that I want to link to that light, and I want to move it into this box right here. You have to be very careful about the way you do that. You don't come up and click on the teapot. You come up and you click and drag on the teapot. Because if you click and then release, now you have selected the teapot. You are no longer working with the light you had selected. Does that make sense? Okay. So it's kind of it's an all one motion thing. This is what happens if I come up and I say, oh, I'm going to move the teapot. Well, I didn't move the teapot. I have now selected the teapot. Let me grab my light again. Click and drag. Now the teapot is included in the light linking. Notice, because I have included the teapot, nothing else is receiving light from the red light. The only object in this scene receiving red light is now the teapot, because I have included it in the light linking. If I untick this box, now I'm going to exclude it. When I exclude it from the lighting, everything else is included in the lighting. Does that make sense? A little confusing, but kind of makes sense. So what I can do, though, is I can add, no, I had it selected, I'm sorry. I can go ahead and plane number 1's got to be the ground. I should have named that better. Plane 01 has got to be that. Okay, so now I can go in and I can turn off each one selectively. Does that kind of make sense? This just allows me to either say you only like this object, or you only like these 3 objects, or you like everything else in the scene, which is nice. Yes?
Let's say you put like a wall in front, like in between the light and the teapot. If you excluded it from the rendering, would the light just go straight through the wall anyways and like hit the teapot?
I think so. I'd want you to tinker with that, to be honest. Because what I'm going to show you next is how to exclude shadows. And when you start doing the 2 of them together, it gets kind of wonky. So I would think of it on a case-by-case basis, Ryder. and just, approach it that way. I'd hate to say yes or no, either way. So, okay, so that does bring up the next thing we're going to talk about, though, and that is going to be shadow linking. And again, I could do the light linking with the blue. Would you guys like me to do that? Okay. Well, if you need me to, I'll be happy to do it. If you guys got the concept, I don't see any reason in repeating myself. Plus, it's on video, so you can watch it there. Okay, so let's look at the shadow cast, or the shadow linking. So in this particular case now, I'm going to select the red light again. I'm going to come down here to shadow linking. I'm going to create a new shadow link group. And then I'm just going to pull all those objects into that group again. Okay? So I'll start with my teapot. I will go with my plane, which is the ground. And I will go with plane number 1, which is the tablecloth. All right.
If you rename the things in your hierarchy, does it auto list, or do you have to redrag them?
I would say, again, I hate to say yes or no, because yesterday I had the strangest thing. I renamed it in the hierarchy, but when I got down here for the shadow linking, it did not rename them. So yes,
Because you rename it before you do it.
yeah, my answer is, yeah, name your object before you start changing things. Because, yeah, that kind of threw me for a loop yesterday. It didn't change the name here for some reason, so I don't know why. But now watch what happens, okay? Shadow linking. If I remove the teapot, it will no longer cast a shadow. If I remove the plane 01, it's no longer going to cast a shadow. Put the teapot back. Take the teapot away. The plane doesn't really matter because it's not casting a shadow onto anything, the ground. Okay? So, this is a really powerful artistic tool. This allows you to put lights where they wouldn't normally go. This allows you to highlight things that you wouldn't normally be able to do. If I've got a rim light on a character and I only want that rim light to hit the character, when I talk about the rim light, we're talking about the one that comes from behind the character generally. And it usually kind of just gives them a little halo effect. Well, that halo effect can get washed out if that rim light bounces off everything else in the scene. If I make it only hit the character, then I'm going to get this beautiful rim light that's only highlighting my character, or whatever object is I want to highlight. Okay, this is kind of a heavy duty kind of a concept. So that's why I recorded it. Okay, that's pretty much it for my section of things. Let me cover a couple more things and then we can take a little break. All right, so let's jump over here to the lecture notes. Please go through these when you're working, okay? Don't rely just on the video. Look at these, it's all written down. In addition, I cannot require that you guys go watch these videos, but I can definitely encourage you to go watch these videos. If you don't know Ducky, you should have Ducky 3D bookmarked on YouTube. He is phenomenal. He does a lot of motion graphics, okay? So not character animation, not modeling so much. He makes concert visuals. He makes crazy stuff that uses geometry nodes and just fun stuff, right? It's one of those guys that I watch and then I finish watching it and I'm like, I have no idea what I did. Not a clue to what I did. But he's one of my favorites. Again, DJ tutorials, he's okay. Getting a little old, but this one does a really good job with the light groups and explaining how you would use them. In this particular tutorial, he goes over making the scene that you see there, where he's got one where it's lit with just the lantern, and then he has other lights in the scene as well. So we all love Grant Abbott. If you don't, I feel bad for you. Grant's the best. All right, so much good stuff. Ryan King, again, this guy's got the patience of a saint, and he just does it in a really no-nonsense kind of way. Just, these are the steps, this is what you will do, this is what you will get. Those are really nice sometimes. For those of you using Eevee, here's a specific Eevee tutorial about improving your lighting in Eevee. Definitely watch it. And then there's a couple of material tutorials. This is a great website if you are looking for even more to take yourself after you graduate from here. CG Cookie is a great place to go. A little expensive, but it's not too bad. And I think that'll do it. Okay. So let's go look at the assignment. I think I left this pretty open-ended for you because I really want you to just focus on the technique and don't worry about being super creative with it. All right, so I want you to create the assignment. This assignment builds on your current understanding of lighting and materials. It takes what we learned a while back in the beginning of the semester and hopefully gives you some new tools to add on top of it. To increase one's skill on previous knowledge of lighting and materials, to apply intermediate lighting and material concepts in Blender, including light and shadow linking, light groups, and procedural materials using material nodes. The task is real simple. Create a simple still life scene to showcase the different concepts discussed in class. Experiment with linking lights and shadows to specific objects to control their interaction. Organize lights into groups and manage their visibility in the compositing window. Develop procedural materials for different objects such as fabrics, metals, using material nodes. Just do what I did. Okay? Make yourself a nice metal texture. Give it some bump to it. Give it some texture to it. Don't worry about reinventing the wheel. Now, if you wanted to, a great way to stretch yourself on this project would be to create an actual still life. Everyone in this room can model a banana. Every one of you could UV map this banana. An orange, an apple. Those are nice organic shapes that aren't super hard to make. And if you want to be a character animator at all, a character modeler, make some bananas. Okay, I know that sounds weird, but give them little legs and make them run around. Something. Nice organic shapes. But if you want to do cubes and triangles and spheres, that's fine too. So if you're not sure what I mean by still life, that's what I mean by still life. Okay? Make a real simple little scene. Maybe take a couple boxes, drop some cloth on it. Yeah, I won't say all of you have taken art classes, but surely some of you have taken drawing classes. You come into the drawing class and they've got the easel set up with the fruit and everything, and you're supposed to draw the folds and all of that stuff in the cloth. Same thing here. You can just make your own. Questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, very good. Again, you guys are doing a real good job on this, but if you need to, take my deliverable list and put it into your document. I'm okay with that. I'm okay if it says a title with your name and then you have your name and stuff. And then it says 3 or more renders. These are my 3 renders. I want to make sure you're giving me what I asked for. Right? So make sure that you go through these. All right. I think that's about all I have for you today. I would like you to stick around a little bit, maybe practice. The more time you do this, the better off you're going to be. Addition to that, though, is you just heard it. If you go practice it right now, it's going to reinforce it for you. If you wait till Thursday, you're going to be like, I have no idea what he did. It's your call. Okay. Last call for questions? All right. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. And we'll see everybody next week.